This episode is brought to you by Fortis Mentis Psychiatry, where Black and Brown girls can find individual therapy, mindfulness and meditation coaching, medication management, and case management. To learn more, go to fortismentispsychiatry.com/safe place. Hey girl, welcome back to Safe Place for Brown Girls, and I'm your host, Dr. Kathleen Jude Estime. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and this podcast is your space to heal, to grow, and reconnect with the parts of you that have been silenced, overlooked, or just plain tired. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Here we talk about mental wellness, identity, creativity, and what it means to be a woman of color navigating this world with intention. Today's episode is one I've been looking forward to because we're all talking about going home. Not just home to your city or to your block, but home to our roots, your ancestry, your truth. For my guest today, that meant boarding a plane and moving to East Africa. Toddre Monier is a stylist, fashion buyer, boutique owner, and creative soul who's worked in the fashion industry since 2001. But in recent years, she's made a powerful decision to leave the U.S. and settle in Nairobi, Kenya. And what she's found there wasn't just better fashion or a slower pace. It was a deeper sense of self, a reconnection, and a rebirth. Today, she's not just styling clients, she's curating experiences, reclaiming cultural pride, and helping others see the beauty, luxury, and power in Blackness and in Africa. Hello, Toddre. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. It's about 8 p.m. here in Nairobi. I almost forgot that we had a recording today.
Oh, no. I'm so happy that you remembered. You finally remembered. But I'm a follower. I love your work. I absolutely adore your work.
Thank you. Thank you so much. How'd you find out about Beauty is Universal, Blacks to Africa?
When we started doing the research through the production company.
Okay, awesome. I'm glad
Okay.
that we found each other.
Yes, absolutely. So, Toddre, I'm not going to start with fashion. We're going to start with you. Tell us, so how did you find yourself in Africa? At what point did you tell yourself you wanted to find a deeper, because you were not born in Africa, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so when did you realize that you wanted something deeper and you wanted to explore your roots, your African roots?
Well, to be honest with you, I've always felt a connection to Africa. And
Hmm.
I ended up minoring in African studies as an undergraduate student at Indiana University. And when I graduated, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So I enrolled myself in law school and I specialized in international human rights law. So I've been coming to Africa since I was 18. My first experience was as a volunteer in a refugee camp in Zimbabwe working with Mozambican refugees. And then as I progressed in my academics, then those volunteer opportunities turned into internships. And then internships turned into employment opportunities. And some of the work that I'm most proud of I took place in South Africa. I was an international monitor for the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in South Africa, and also did some work with USAID and Peace Corps in Namibia. I believe they're still around. Trans Africa Forum, which is a Black think tank that's based in Washington, D.C. I worked there as an intern. Of course, I was goofing around and having a lot of fun, but I really appreciated the work that they were doing around the world for Black liberation.
Wow, that's a very impressive resume.
Thank you. So I don't think I answered your question. So you said, what led me here? Of course, the connection, then the academics, and then the work. And I looked up one day, I was in my late 40s, and I was like, okay, I always thought that I would be living in Africa, and I wasn't. I was living in Los Angeles, which is where I'm from, and working in Santa Monica. And I think the universe just answered my prayer because I got laid off from my job. And I took that opportunity to move to Zanzibar, Tanzania. I had gone there the previous year for a birthday celebration, loved it. And whenever you go someplace fabulous, you're always trying to figure out how to make it your forever home. And so when I got laid off, I was like, you know what, let me just sell everything and move to Zanzibar. So I was in Zanzibar for about a year. And from there, I moved to Kampala, Uganda. So a 2 to 4 month work opportunity really turned into 2 years. After Kampala, my plan was to move to Kigali, Rwanda. It's supposed to be one of the safest, if not the safest cities in Africa, one of the cleanest. And ultimately, I wound up in Nairobi, Kenya, primarily because of its urban green spaces, which I was missing in Kampala, and also its proximity to the ocean. So, being a Cali girl, I was really missing the ocean in Kampala because Uganda is a landlocked country. So, I'm about an hour flight away from the ocean. I always say that, like, I'm just an hour away, but I really only get to the coast maybe like 2, 3 times a year.
For those of us who aren't there, who've never been there, bring us to the motherland. Describe where you're at.
Okay, so I am in Nairobi, Kenya, which is the capital city in Kenya. It's a very metropolitan city. Even though I minored in African studies, one of the things that continues to surprise me is how African capital cities are very diverse. We have people here from all over the world, various ethnicities, nationalities, religions, etc. So I actually live in a 2 bedroom, 2 bath flat. People usually want to know like how much are these things? So I would say it's 70,000 Kenyan shillings, which depending upon the exchange rate will be between 4 and 600 USD. And I live in, I would say, a middle class neighborhood within Nairobi. There's lots of construction happening here, lots of growth. The UN has decided to move its headquarters here. So Kenyans are concerned with gentrification and rising costs as a result. I really do like my neighborhood. It's generally quiet, and I'm about 2 blocks from the State House, which would be the White
Wonderful.
House
Thank you for
for
sharing.
Americans watching.
Oh, so the greenhouse is actually the White House.
The State House, yes, the State House
Oh, the
is
State House.
actually
The State
what
House.
we would call
Okay,
the
so the
White House
State
in the
House.
US. Yeah,
Okay. So the State House is actually the White House, our version of the
exactly,
White House.
exactly.
Oh, wonderful. So let's talk about fashion now. I absolutely adore fashion. And so tell us about your fashion style, and tell us how does that relate to mental health?
Well, what's so crazy is when I graduated from law school, I wanted to work for all of these organizations I had read about were doing great work around the world. And it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be to get my foot in the door within the international development realm. So I ended up working with USAID as a fellow and then later on in collaboration with the US Peace Corps in Namibia. And it was there in Namibia that had a literal dream that I owned a women's shoe store and that it was called Wild Women Wear Red. So I would say within a week or two after having that dream, we were evacuated from our sites due to the civil war in neighboring Angola. And I was like, I want to say maybe 11 kilometers from the Angolan border. So the U.S. ambassador for Namibia evacuated a lot of us. And I found myself back in Washington, D.C. I continue to do a little bit of work with homeless children, but ultimately I quit and I opened my own shoe store. So that pretty much began my journey in fashion. That was 2001. And we were voted the number one shoe store in DC, or I should say in the DC metropolitan area, I believe 2 years in a row. And for me, that just meant so much because my focus was on women and having women feel powerful without the heels. So our motto was funky, functional footwear for women. So we had all of these
Love it.
handcrafted shoes from all over the world, but we were missing a huge segment of the market because when women buy shoes, they typically want shoes for a specific outing, a specific event, and it's usually something that
Mhm.
requires heels. So eventually, we did incorporate heels into what we were doing. And I wanted it to be a safe space where women could come and have conversations about real life, daily issues. So we had this beautiful couch shaped like a ladybug, and it even had the cowhide was even dyed red and it had black speckles on it. And then around the boutique, we had images of powerful women within various ethnic groups. So we had Angela Davis on the wall, we had Indigenous American women represented, etc.
Oh, wonderful. That sounds amazing. That sounds
Thank you.
absolutely amazing. How does fashion, tell our viewers how fashion can actually affect your mental health? What do women feel? How do your customers feel when they're wearing your garments?
So, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't do much designing anymore, and I actually never really did. I was more of a retailer and a buyer. So, at this state, what
Mhm.
I do is I host fashion and art tours in Nairobi, Kenya. So that's what I do from the fashion perspective. And for people who are interested, I also do personal wardrobe styling as well. So I'm not doing a whole lot of designing. I really don't have the patience for design and production, but I have an amazing eye, and for that I thank my creative family. So right now I'm actually wearing a couple of fun pieces from a local jewelry designer here in Nairobi. And these are made of clay. She did these custom because I dyed my hair purple. I was just give me a little purple. But as we know, how fashion relates to one's self esteem is that fashion can be someone's armor. And throughout time, we've had fashion and style to tell people what our station was in life, who we were
Mhm.
related to, how many children we had, were we married, were we single, pubescent, etc. And so when you find amongst the elite classes, if we go way back, you'll find amongst the elite classes that they were the only ones that could wear a certain fabric or a certain feather. And so we fast forward to where we are now in 2025, that thing is now luxury. And so for a lot of people, putting on luxury is their armor. It makes them feel good. I'm not, I love things that are very well made. I love supporting local artists, independent artists, but I'm not so much caught up on the label, if you get what I'm saying.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell our viewers, how can they get involved in fashion and doing what you do?
Well, I mean, if they actually have a penchant for fashion, what would be the best way to go about it? I hesitate to give people advice to go back to school, given where we are now with AI. You know what I mean? For
Mhm.
me, it was something that really came out of the dream and then we made it happen. But I would like to say that if people love fashion and they want to dip their toe in, then I would say that they should pursue it as a hobby. But not every hobby needs to become a money earner. So if you're fine doing it as a hobby, being a stylist, helping your friends get dressed, etc., maybe hosting a fashion tour in your own city, I would say do that. I got started using Airbnb. So I'm listed on Airbnb experiences, and I'm one of the few Airbnb partners in Nairobi that's offering fashion. So I'm easy to find. I think it's called Eclectic Fashion Tour in Nairobi with a wardrobe stylist. So I'm pretty easy to find. And then
And
I would also like
it's
to say, like, for people who are creative in any way, just find the time to sketch, find the time to paint, find the time to upcycle. I think upcycling is one of the easiest ways for people to really access the fashion industry. Another way that someone can do it is by supporting local designers in their areas, going to local fashion shows, etc.
for those of us who are not familiar, describe what does upcycling mean?
Upcycling is like, let's say, me taking this sweatshirt and then
Mm-hmm.
adding feathers or adding lace or maybe cutting it off the shoulders and adding a little accoutrement here or there. That's pretty much upcycling. Here in East Africa, it's a pretty popular thing to do because so much of the ready to wear, so much of our garments are secondhand. So I know that's one of
Oh,
the things that we wanted to talk about in this episode. And as Americans, like, we have no idea where our donated clothes end up. And they
correct.
absolutely end up in the developing world. So, one of the reasons why I launched the fashion tour in Nairobi is because it's difficult to find funky, ready to wear. If you wanted something that was more, I would say, cookie cutter, it's pretty easy to find. But if you're looking for something that is unique, that can be challenging. So I have various partners here on the ground, designers, concept store owners that really can help people get into their fashion bag. Another way that I think we're winning in Nairobi, even though something that you might buy, let's say at Nordstrom's, here would be like three times the cost because of import, shipping,
Mhm.
taxation, all of that. So I tend to stay away from, let's say, the chain stores here. Also, what I found is that the quality is not as great as what I'm used to. This is like pre-United States tariffs. So, one of the things that we do when people have more than 48 hours in the city is we take them to a tailor. You get to choose your fabric and then we design for you. Sometimes I tell people just create a Pinterest board of what you like, share it with the tailor, and they'll make it for you within a couple of days. So, there, I think, is where we are winning in terms of East African fashion. And for those who don't
Oh,
know, East African fashion or aesthetic is very different from West Africa. West Africa is more so known for its vibrant colors and batiks, etc. Whereas in East Africa, it's not as ostentatious, but it's still very tangible, valuable. So we work a lot with beads. We work a lot with, how do I want to say, horn. So like cow horn, and then also bone. There's also quite a bit of brass, like the rings I have on my fingers. These are brass. Somebody might, think that they're gold, but brass is very common in this part of the world.
oh, wow. I did not know that. I did not know that. So thrifting is a big thing. So we call it thrifting here. What is it called in Africa? In
Well, here,
Nairobi?
Here in Kenya, it's also called thrifting. So you'll find people on Instagram that are selling thrifted clothes. Me personally, if I'm going to thrift, which to be honest, I don't like it because because like it takes so much time and energy. But let's say I have a guest that comes into town, they're like, "Oh, I want to get some tumba." And tumba means secondhand clothing in Kiswahili, which is the language that's spoken here, Kiswahili in English. So I'll take them to Toy Market, which is a huge outdoor market where you can get damn near everything from household items like curtains and duvet covers to shoes and not so much jewelry, but handbags, baby clothes, t-shirts, and all of this stuff is coming from the global north. So yeah, people do definitely call it thrifting here. Sometimes I see people walking around looking fresh to death, and I'm like, "Where did you get that?" And they'll tell me, "Oh, Gikomba or Toy Market," which are two of the major markets here in Nairobi.
I absolutely survived when I was in school off of thrifting. I taught it to my children as well, so I hear you. It does take a lot of time. And Yambo Sana.
What is Yambo Sana? I heard Sana, but what is
Yambo,
Yambo?
Yambo Sana. Yambo Sana means hello, I believe. My father
Okay.
was yeah, he was a physician in one of the Swahili speaking countries. But that is amazing. Fashion. So, and how does it make you feel when you're designing? So, do you style people?
I haven't really done a whole lot of styling since I've been in East Africa. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't able to work as a stylist in Zanzibar because people were like, it was hard for them to grasp the concept. Zanzibar is a tiny archipelago off the coast of Tanzania. So I had people saying to me, like, so you mean people pay you to dress them? I was like, you know what?
Kim Kardashian, right?
Absolutely.
You're the African
Absolutely.
version of Kim Kardashian.
Oh my gosh. So, but when I got to Uganda, I was able to work with a fashion brand and they brought me on to help them come up with a concept for their new collection and that lookbook and that digital footprint, etc. So I was there coming up with the concept and also maintaining continuity throughout the shoot, doing styling throughout the shoot. So I really actually love doing that, working with brands that way. Working with individuals I find to be challenging because people will say, well, I need a new look for an event or for a life changing moment. I just got a divorce or I'm moving into a new career. But really, I find that there's not much movement, there's not much change in how they normally present themselves to really what they're comfortable with. So I offer a service called It's Cheaper to Keep Her, which means that I will go
Okay.
into someone's closet and I'll tell you what to get rid of. I'll tell you what you need to add. And then I'll put together 10 ensembles from your pre existing wardrobe. And I'll put it together in ways that you've never imagined. Put you in those ensembles, take a photo of you in each one. And then that way, for those people who are not fashion savvy, it's just easy for them to get dressed in the mornings.
Wow, that is amazing. That must really uplift their mental health.
Yeah, I like to think that, people feel a bit more joy, especially when they have a clean closet, because in that service, I'm also organizing that closet. And you know what they
Oh,
say about,
wow.
a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind. It's the same
Yeah.
thing with people's
Yeah,
closets.
I hear you, girl. I hear you. So, Toddre, tell me what is the experience like when someone is working with you in your custom boutique?
So I would like to think that it's an adventure. I took a sister out. She was visiting, well, actually, she's moving here from Chicago. And she found me on YouTube because I have a podcast called Relax It to Africa, encouraging people of African descent to return to the motherland. Whether you're someone like myself who's been separated for centuries, or you're constantly born and you're making your coin in your global north, in the global north, I say come back home. So she found me from my YouTube podcast And she was like, you know what? I need to book this tour. She came on the tour and she was like, listen, you're not charging enough. This is an experience. So the fashion tour is really curated based on the guests' preferences, sizes, interests. So if someone says, well, I have a budget, I don't have a luxe budget, I have a low end budget, maybe I have $100 I can spend because the tour itself is $100. So at that point, I know exactly where to take them. I'm going to take them to one of the markets that has basically everything the uptown stores have, but this market is wholesale. So I'm basically negotiating for the client, I'm guiding them to the best vendors, and it's a dance between supporting the creative class as well as making sure that my client doesn't get taken advantage of. Now, if I get a client that says, hey, I have a luxe budget, I don't want to do no markets, I don't need no souvenirs, then I'm going to take them to a concept boutique in Karen. And, they're going to have champagne and they're going to have, customer care and they're going to try on beautiful garments from many parts of the world. And then I'll probably take them to one of the high end handbag vendors that I'm in partnership with, where they have beautiful leathers. Cows are a very important part of the culture in East Africa. So, because we have so many cows, that means we have great leather. So, you'll be getting a beautiful leather bag with gorgeous handles and straps that are meticulously beaded by Maasai women. Or I might take you to one of the designers here. There's a designer that I work with here that I love. Her name is Katouche, and she's all about slow fashion, sustainable fashion. So as we mature as a species, now we're learning how detrimental fashion can actually be to the planet. So she doesn't really do a collection where she has a huge backlog of inventory. She makes them to order. So I love that about her too. Now, I know you want to bring this back to mental health and empowering people. Fashion is not for everybody. Like, I feel like you can teach people the basics, but as
Mm-hmm.
far as having a stylistic flair, you either have it or you don't. So I don't fault people who don't have it. I don't fault people who try, as long as I see you trying. At the end of the day, what I want to give you is an experience in Nairobi that you've never had before. And so if someone is thinking about making Africa their home, I would say listen to your gut and ask yourself at this moment in your life, what exactly are you looking for? What would be your 5 non-negotiables? And then do your research and then go where your heart sings the loudest. Right now, with what's happening in the US, politically, economically, socially, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people are just not okay. And
Mm-hmm.
I just want to give permission to people to say, like, listen, it may be time for you to leave your passport country if it means that it's
Mm-hmm.
going to improve your mental health. And one way to test out the waters is to not just go on vacation, but maybe go somewhere for a month and try to live like a local, meet some people, and then see how you feel. I interviewed a woman on my podcast. By the way, it's called Blacksit to Africa. It's a play on Brexit, but it's Blacksit. And it's a number two.
Right.
And there was a sister
Okay.
from Ohio who booked my fashion tour, and she's living in Mexico City, living her best life in Mexico City, but she happened to be here in Nairobi traveling. And so I was like, I need to get you on my podcast. And one of the things that she shared is that she realized that she was happier when she was traveling. So she travels like I want to say 4 months out of the year, she just moves around the world. And the other 6 months, she's in Mexico City. The other thing that she realized is that she could live on 40,000 USD annually. So that meant that she had a beautiful flat in Mexico City. She was able to pay for all her flights, all her lodging. So for people who are able to figure out that remote work situation, for people who are retired and they prepare for their retirement, living abroad might be an option for them. I'd have to admit that most of my clients are middle-aged and older. So I also provide LAGSIT consultations for people who are just like, okay, I think I want to do it, but I'm not sure, or I need some expert advice on where to move and how to do it. I provide that. So, and I would also mention that Kenya has a digital nomad visa and it also has retirement visa. So you can retire here at the age of 35.
Wow. So tell me, if a sister, because I love your work. I actually went abroad as well in the 2000s. So and I lived in the Dominican Republic. So I really wish that I had access to your services when there, because you can do it right, but you can also do it wrong. You can
Yes.
also
How did
do it
you
wrong.
like DR?
So I love DR. I lived off of $25,000. That was before the market crash. So I lived off of $25,000 a year, and my children went to private schools. But I really didn't plan it well enough, and it really affected my mental health. But tell me, if a sister is thinking about it and adventurous enough to do it, tell them how can get in contact with you.
Well, basically, you can reach out to me through my website, which is beautyisuniversal.com. And from there, you'll see the tours, you'll see the digital guides, you'll see the Blacksit consultations, relocations, all of that. You can also find me on YouTube, also Beauty is Universal, but the podcast is called Blacksit to Africa. And of course, I have an Instagram, which is my favorite platform. It's Beauty is Universal UG. That the UG stand for Uganda because I launched that page in Uganda. And I'm recently on TikTok. The youngins got me on TikTok, so you can find me there at Beauty is Universe.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your story and all your work with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening today. And a deep thanks to Toddre DaLaura Monier for bringing us into her journey, her return to the motherland, her creative power, and her vision for what luxury, healing, and self-expression can really look like. If you want to explore more of Toddre's work, book a consult, check out her Niobe Fashion and City Guide, or follow her content. We've got all of the links waiting for you in the show notes. And listen, sis, if you're standing at the crossroads in your life, wondering if you're allowed to or want more, to start over or come home to yourself, just know it's not just emotional work. It's healing. It's identity. And you don't have to do it alone. You can find support or book a session with me at fortismentespsychiatry.com/help. This is your safe place, and you're always welcome here. This episode was brought to you by Fortis Mentis Psychiatry, where Black and brown girls can find individual therapy, mindfulness and meditation coaching, medication management, and case management. To learn more, go to fortismentespsychiatry.com/safe place.